correction.
So looks like we're going through a bunch of these, which is fine. It's just make sure that you guys are following along the ones you guys struggled with. So also realize when we have time in class to get help, it really is a good idea to work in class and then you guys can ask for help before going home with the whole assignment. If you weren't able to do like number 13 or 15, I hope that you already started that while you guys were here. That way you can get help right away. You don't have to feel unsuccessful the whole time. So I'll go through the questions you guys have. So on the test, I consider there to be one, like I believe number 13 is one of the easier ones, I consider. Yeah, 13. So there's gonna be one on the test like 13. And I consider that an easier problem, kind of not as many points because it doesn't take as much work. So I will show you guys why that is. So the reason why 13 I consider to be easier, and so guys, if you got these wrong, you're asking for help, I expect you guys to be writing and going through this with us. If you didn't do the homework, I would suggest doing that with us now. Don't miss out on this review time. So if no one's writing, then I'm assuming that everyone got it, and then you shouldn't have asked about it. So make sure you guys are getting something out of this. So in this problem, if you look, the reason I left a little space here is because I can tell right away I can solve for t here. Because t is kind of in an equation all by itself. So I get t is -4. So on the test, that would be a point to figure out what t is. Once I know t, then I can kind of work my way backwards. Because I see this equation has t in it. So then I can put that value in for t and find my s. So I'm able to solve this new equation for s. So 6s equals 30. So s ends up being 5. So again, that's another point for knowing how to figure out s. Now that I know s, I can put it back in to find r. So I find out r is -2. You have to kind of go a step at a time backwards here. Do we want 15 as well? Yeah? Okay. Again, I would suggest writing these down, please, guys. If you're just watching me, you're only getting into your memory one way. If you write as well, you actually will remember a little bit better on how to do this method. There's definitely going to be questions like this on the test. And this would be a good example of one, I would say. Pretty straightforward here. So right away, there's a variable that jumps out at me that looks easiest to get rid of. What do you guys think? So I would probably say the z, because all of the z's have the same coefficient, just a positive or negative version of it. So these two together can be combined to get rid of z. And I want to get rid of the same variable each time. Okay. I'm writing the problems up though, so I'd rather you just do it with us, please. So we can cancel this, and I have to add these though. X and x is 2x. Y and y is 2y. -1 and 3 is 2. So I got a new equation with just x and y in it. But then I look at the bottom two equations, and I can also combine those, because they'll also get rid of z. I haven't used this third equation yet, so I need to use it. So now if I add these two, the z's go away here. I have 3x and x is 4x. Y and a negative 2y is a negative 1y. And then 3 and negative 4 is a negative 1. So I got rid of z in both equations. And I'm left with two equations and two unknowns. And that's something you know how to solve, and we've known how to solve since algebra. So looking at these two, there's a couple of different methods we could, or ways we can go. Either get rid of the x's or get rid of the y's. What do you guys want to get rid of?
Why?
Y.
Because I want to.
So this is a 2y. If I could make this a negative 2y, that would be good. So I need to multiply this by what?
2.
Just 2, because it's already a negative. So the top equation is going to stay the same. The bottom equation, I'm going to multiply everything by 2. To multiply all three parts by 2. So 2x and 8x is going to be 10x. The y's will cancel. 2 and negative 2 is going to be 0. Now this might be scaring you right now because you're like, oh, what just happened there? It's okay to get 0 as an answer. We divide by 10. 0 divided by 10 is just 0. I have 0 cookies. I'm dividing with my 10 friends. We all have 0 cookies.
And 0 friends.
Oh, no, we have 10 friends.
Oh, that's
Stop being my friend. I know. That's if you do 0 divided by 0. We're doing 0 divided by 10. So once I have x is 0, then I have to work my way backwards. I'm going to take this x and put it back in up here. And I can put it back into either of those two. That one just looks easier. So 2 times 0 is just gone. 2y equals 2. So I find out y is 1. Once I know y is 1 and x is 0, I can put that back in to find a z. I'm going to put it back in the middle one, because that one doesn't have any negatives, but it doesn't matter which one you put it back into. So I'm going to put these two back in there. So x is 0, y is 1. So we have 0 plus 1 is 1, plus z equals 3. So z ends up being 2. So like I said, I consider that to be a typical one that could be on our test. (17) is a little more complicated. And we didn't really do one exactly like 17, and there won't be one exactly like 17 on our test. But I can still show you guys how to do it since we have questions on it. So it's a little bit trickier. Or are you guys okay with, if it's not going to be on the test, we can skip it? Or
yeah.
You're okay with that?
Yeah.
Is everyone dying to see 17? No. I'm going to go to 19 then. Okay. So 17 was definitely tougher. I didn't do one like that, but it's doable. It's just, I won't give you one like that.
Impossible.
If you're looking for advanced problems, that would probably be it. Five does not look very good. Okay, so here's number 19. We're skipping 17. Here's 19. You have to make a decision about what variable to get rid of. I have an idea of what I want to do. What do you guys think? I think B looks easiest. So I agree with Kinsey. I think that's what you said. So the reason I picked B is because these two have coefficients, but this one has just a -1, so I can make that one into anything I want. That's kind of where I'm thinking. Otherwise, I'd have to end up multiplying by more than one thing. So I don't know if that makes sense. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this equation in two different ways. I'm going to multiply it once by 7, and then another time I'm going to multiply by 5. That sounds okay. 19 is a little bit tougher, so like I said, on our test, we probably have something more like 13 and 15, but I think this is still doable. So I'm going to multiply this top row by 7. I want to add it with the second row to get rid of the b's. So it's going to be a 35a, a -7b, 21c, and 35. And that's going to get added to the middle row. Guys, make sure this stuff is put away right now. This is important stuff we should be doing. So this cancels. So this is 37a, and then this is 19c, and then 40. All right, so this equation has just a and c in it. I want to somehow use the bottom equation to also get just a and c in it. And I'm going to use this top row, but in this time I'm going to multiply it instead by a -5. So I'm going to go back to the original equation and multiply it by a -5. So I get a -25a, a +5b, a -15c, and then a -25 over here, and then add it to the bottom row. Kind of some big numbers here going on. This is a -22, yikes. Holy cow. This is very good. I understand why this one was difficult.
I got this
You got this far, and then you can decide what to multiply. Has anyone, like, does my math look okay so far? Is this the same numbers you had? Yeah. All right.
I was so confused.
So now to make a common factor, I have to find common numbers between 21 and 37, or 19 and 22. Yikes. FYI, the one on the test is not this bad. Okay, so unless someone saw I added something wrong, I'm hoping that I did just because I wanted to work out more nicely than this. I don't see anything. Okay, so 19 and 22, should we go with that? I don't know. Yeah. I may not have chose the best numbers for you here. So the only thing I can think of is just multiplying by what the other one is. I don't know if anyone tried. So like multiplying this one by 22 and then that one by 19. That's horrible. But it's the only thing I can think of unless someone figured out something different. Some huge numbers. Oh my gosh.
That's why there was a question mark by
Yeah,
this
no
one.
kidding.
I was like, this is supposed to be big numbers. Am I doing something wrong?
Okay, that's what I got when I multiplied that by 22. Yeah.
Yeah, right. This is why we think that we have
Oh,
calculators.
I'm being really sad if this doesn't work out. Oh, no, it does.
They're not there.
A is -2.
Yeah.
Dang.
Alright. I won't give you a 1 with that bad numbers.
You better
Sorry.
not.
Better not. Oh, you all. Did you get it easier way?
Not really, but I did. I like tried it.
Nice work. That was a doozy of a problem. Alright. So, moral of the story, focus, if you want to read, like, look at some of them, 13, 15, that's probably more similar that's going to be on our test. Alright? So, we're going to review for our test today. We're testing tomorrow in here.
Get ice cream.
You were right over the She's one about somebody that might be with him and then later. Gotta be like, I did it. What? Think it sucks.
Okay, if you're not listening to me, Kristen, you guys in the back, you be nice to her, you kept that on the ground.
Okay. I thought you I said no.
Carrots.
Alright. Real quick, while you guys are actually probably still listening to me, you flip over to the homework. Notice that I'm changing the directions for some of them. For the 16 through 20, you want to use elimination. For 22 through 26, you want to use substitution. So you're gonna like ignore their directions and follow mine instead on those problems.
Wow,
Okay?
she gave us permission.
I'm giving you permission to ignore their directions down there. Okay?
Wow.
I know,
Yeah,
you're
you get a bag.
rebel with that.
Can you use a different kind of bag? What is the instant bag?
Yeah. Heck yeah, man.
Okay. Our test is tomorrow.
Thursday, October 8th, 2020.
Now, I won't walk in and tell you guys to drop everything and like not ask questions. So you're welcome to ask questions as we come in or whatever. Just being aware that if you're like, hey, I don't remember or I don't know how to do any of that 3 variable stuff. If that's the case, then you should be coming in for AR tomorrow. So just with AR, the only thing is you just have to basically like let someone know ahead of time. So or come here and then I can always email your teacher or let your teacher know so you don't get marked absent. AR, I don't have like a ton of people needing help in here, so I'm glad to help you guys if that is better for you. So that being said, in 31 we solved by graphing. So we're looking for where they intersect. We're looking for their intersection, but we want them in y equals mx plus b. Do you guys remember what type of line is that x equals 4? That's a vertical one. So x equals 4 is going to be a vertical line at 4. So here's my x equals 4. And then we're going to graph our other line starting at our B and then doing a rise over run to find our next, or where they intersect. Start at -1, go up 2 over 1. And then I find where the lines intersect, and that's our solution. I believe it's 4, 7. Questions at all on that? So be careful about those vertical and horizontal lines. The next day we solved systems by substitution. And remember with substitution, you want to isolate one variable. So if you look at this example 2, x is already isolated for us, so we're ready to substitute that. So that value is going to go in place of x in this equation. And I would suggest using parentheses with this. So you have to substitute it into the other equation. Is that a -3y?
Yeah.
Covered up the.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I can solve this new equation because now it only has one variable versus having 2. At -38.
Yep.
Right? So y ends up being -19. And once I have y, then I have to put that back in to find my x. So this time we found both variables using substitution. Any questions on that? All right, so we'll go to elimination. And that's where we want something to cancel when we add the equations together. Okay, to turn the page. So in this one, we want there to either be the opposite x value coefficient or the opposite y value coefficient. So we want the coefficients to match. And if you look at this problem, nothing matches. So I have 3 and 1 or -5 and 4. Which one would be easier to make it match?
Bottom one by -3.
So if I could make this into 3x and a -3x, that would be ideal because then they'll cancel. So like you guys said, we're going to multiply the bottom row by a -3 to make that the opposite sign. So this top row is going to stay as it is, but the bottom row I'm going to multiply by -3, sorry. And then we can add the equations and they should cancel. X is out. And then I'm able to solve that new equation for y. So I find out y is 1. Once we have our y, then we can substitute that back in to find x in either of the two equations on the top. It doesn't matter which one you use. If you want to use the very top one, the middle one, it doesn't really matter. X ends up being 6. All right, we'll do one more and then we can take a little break. Solving the system of inequalities. So you have to graph, and like these are the ones where we have to look to see where they cross, but we're looking to see where the colors cross, like two colors come together and make a mixed color. I'm going to tell you this graph is kind of lame because I don't think they mix. So for the inequalities, to remember that we either have a dotted line or a solid line. We need to remember to shade using a test point. Or just using what you guys know about inequalities, so I'm okay with you being a little bit wise about that at this point. And then don't forget that when you multiply or divide by a negative, you might have to flip the inequality. So again, we talked about a value like x is less than or equal to -5. That's going to be a vertical line, solid vertical line. And I have to color, sorry, that ran off there. Now, again, as we're doing more and more of these inequalities, maybe you're starting to get a little bit better at testing this. But I can kind of read this as x is less than -5, so I'm going to go less than -5, which less would be left. Now, if you wanted to test a point, you could. You could test 0. 0 is not less than -5, so that's how I know I have to color over here. But again, if you're able to reason through that without having to actually like test it, like if you're saying, oh, just less is left, that's okay. That's an okay like thing to be aware of. I don't advertise that to my algebra students just because I want them to understand like why they're coloring that side, but hopefully at this point you're kind of starting to figure it out a little bit better. Now this one I need to get my y alone, so I have to divide by 2. Now it might throw you off a little bit because it's kind of flipped around. So where do I begin that graph? At 0, 0, there's no b. So I'm going to begin at 0, 0. I'm going to do my slope of up 5 and over 2. I can reverse that. And this one's going to be a dotted line. But now this one, I can't use 0, 0 because 0, 0 is right on the line, so that won't tell me anything. I think most of the time I hear you guys say choose 1, 1. Or again, you can think about it. It's saying y is less than the x. So less than would be under, so you color underneath. So kind of being a little bit, again, smart with this. Or you can put 1, 1 in there. 5 is greater than 2. It's true. So I'm going to color over here. So these actually, sorry, like I said, this is kind of a lame graph because they don't actually even cross. Or on our graph anyway. They would cross down below my board. All right, do you want to go outside for a little fresh air?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Get up
Remember
stretched.
to
I'm pausing you guys this time. Yeah, sorry, yeah. It's like everyone left, like,